Hello, Martha Alderson here, also known as the Plot Whisperer, and we are doing step 10 of how do I plot a novel, memoir, or screenplay. We have spent the last couple sessions on the climax of the story, the end, and it's a little odd to start at the end when you're trying to think about, envision a story from the beginning to the end. But I hope that you were hanging in there with me because it really is helpful. Writers who know what the end is, it just seems to really help them have, sort of a beacon or a lighthouse to sort of direct their attention to. And so I hope you at least came up with some vague idea of this sort of crowning glory when the protagonist is able to do something they weren't able to do at the beginning. And then what is helpful about that is that then that will help inform what needs to come at the beginning. Because if they couldn't do what they're doing at the end, at the very beginning of the story, that they need to go through all the dramatic action in the story, especially in the middle, to get the skills and the consciousness and the insights and meet the right people and do the right things in order to be able to rise up and prevail at the climax, you then sort of have a better clue about where your protagonist will begin at the beginning of the story. Because really what it is in a story is a character arc. The character starts in one place and then arcs and comes around to a place of change at the least and actual transformation at the best. So in order for that change, I guess I should be going this way, from the beginning, is you want them to be sort of the opposite of who they're going to become at the end, because you want them then to find those skills and make that transformational arc at the climax of the story. So now that you sort of vaguely know where you want your character to be, and in order to be at the end, say that they need to be stronger or more honest or have more wisdom or whatever, then you want to start the story with the character not having those traits. Remember at the very beginning, in one of the first ones, I think it was the second session of our steps, is to come up with the character Flaw. This is the reason for the flaw. You want them to be flawed at the beginning and that they're sabotaging themselves in some way. Yes, the external behavior or the external antagonists are also stopping them from getting what they want in life, their goal, but the protagonist does too. And it's true with writers. I mean, every writer that I work with, one of the biggest antagonists that they face are their own fears. I'm not good enough, I don't know what I'm doing, why am I spending all this time writing? Although if you feel that way, you should read Steinbeck's biography, because when you learn about how long he wrote and how many rejections and how many years of just, no success at all, it really gives you hope for, anyone who works hard enough and has some kind of ability with words and characters. So what I want you to think about today is the very beginning, which is 1/4 of the entire page count or scene count of your story. This is an introductory mode, although there has to be conflict, tension, suspense, and curiosity. One thing is, you will develop more and more of the character's backstory as you go. The more that you write forward, the more you're going to start to think about who they are in their backstory. That's all fine and good. You want to develop the characters so they're three-dimensional, there's a lot of elements to them, but you are not going to reveal any of that in the first quarter of the story, at least not overtly. You can through the characters' word choices, their behaviors, their reactions, the details around their lives, what they have in the trunk of their car, what they have on the walls of their houses. All of that will sort of inform who they are and who they were in their backstory. And I want you to sort of think about where you want the setting to begin, which we went over in another step, and begin to start thinking about some scenes that you can set up that will help establish the character, the setting, thematically what the story will be around, and then start making notes just of ideas of scenes or events or situations that you could use for developing scenes around the character to get the story started. A much beloved agent, Jill Cochran, just did a blog post today about how she reads, she's a literary agent, and how she reads so many manuscripts that are beautifully written, but there's no hook at the beginning. And she believes you should start with the hook and then write your story. And, you know, brilliant minds can disagree, and I disagree with that, just because if you get too wedded to the first scene of your book when you're trying to plot it out and then trying to write the first draft, you're going to perhaps get a little bogged down, because until you write the entire draft all the way to the climax, you don't really know what comes at the beginning. So I want you to just sort of start to think about ideas, start to think about who the character can be flawed at the beginning, and then be able to make this arc at the end, and start to make a list of potential scenes that could come up in the beginning of the story. And next time we'll talk about the most important scene in the beginning quarter of the book, and we'll develop that so that we can then launch into the middle of the story world itself and really get going with the actual middle, which is, you know, daunting for a lot of writers. So your assignment today is, if you haven't seen all the other steps, is to go back and look them over, start keeping track of all these different scenes, start keeping track of your character. And if you need any help, go on my blog, The Plot Whisperer, and you can go up in the top left corner, there's a little search place, and you can write in the climax or the end of the beginning or the beginning versus the end, all of those sorts of tag words, and then they'll bring up some pieces that I've written or blog posts that I've written about those subjects that might then help you to generate these scenes that we're going for. I also have my website, Blockbuster Plots for Writers, and then my cohort and I, Kathy Kress, are on this caper together. Who knows why we started this, but we're doing these steps. She's doing it for her book that was just launched, Mom Loves You Best, Forgiving and Forging Sibling Relationships. And so she's promoting her book. I'm trying to attract the attention of a national big publisher that I'm just wild about. So we decided that we would start a contest, and anyone who can discern where we are doing these different videos, keep track of them, make a list of them, and at the end, on the 31st, we are going to ask the people send us their list. They will then be in for a drawing where you can either get a free plot consultation, or if you're a local, you can have a free overnight at one of our wonderful bed and breakfasts that's called the Darling House. So anyway, we have a website set up for the contest, which is the Santa Cruz Traveling Mystery Tour. So if you want more of the details of the contest, go there, and good luck with your plotting. And I'll see you next time in another exotic location in Santa Cruz, California. Thank you.